you're very much associated, of course, with, as Howard Cosell would say, Muhammad Ali. This guy was, his influence is still felt today, and
Yeah,
probably
he's
will be.
also there was a time I was very close with him and Foreman and Frazier, that group. I'm very close with. In fact, I'm doing a book on that now. And there was a time I turned to my wife and I said, you know, that guy really, he's one of my 5 best friends in the world. And she said, you're right. Who are the other 4? That's true.
Is it true?
Oh yeah, he was a very, very close friend of mine, and I don't like to talk about what's happened since. He's not the man I knew. It's not the first time it happened to somebody, and it won't be the last. And he was an amazing guy, though. Amazing guy. You never had to scramble. That was the beautiful thing. I'm in a scrambling thing. I'm writing a column tomorrow. What's that guy going to write? I don't want to write the same thing as him. What are you going to do? With Ali, I never had to worry. We're in Kuala Lumpur. I love that name, in Malaysia. And everybody's running to, all the Malaysians are scurrying around to shoot a picture of me, shoot my thing, and the television sets are going on, the cameras are going, and the poor mayor of Kuala Lumpur can't get any FaceTime. And he's really upset. They're signing the inside of the gloves, for those of you who don't know. Before every fight, every main event, you sign the inside of the gloves after you try 2 pairs on. So you are assured that you'll get those gloves the night of the fight. So they're signing gloves on the inside. And this mayor swoops in, has to reach up. These are Frazier, Bugner and Ali, they were giants compared to this mayor. He reaches in, grabs the gloves and holds them up in front of the camera like this. He said, these gloves are going to be the best protected gloves in the history of boxing. Tonight, these gloves will spend the evening in a locked cell at the Kuala Lumpur Penitentiary. And all of a sudden, Ali leans over and he says, the gloves are going to jail? The champ's gloves are going to jail? They ain't done nothing yet. So I always got a column with him, no matter what I mean, that was a dull day, but Ali came through. He always came through. He was, and I'll tell you another story about Ali that you're like, I must say it's in the book I'm writing. Ali, most people didn't know, had a lot of problems. He went through a period where everything was a decision. He had arthritis in both hands, and I mean really bad. And they were giving him shots for it, so he could fight. So Gene Kilroy, who was the business manager in Muhammad's camp, and did so much for Muhammad, really a good friend, and a guy that really had, all he cared about was what was good for Muhammad. He takes him to Philadelphia to a doctor, a very famous doctor. And the doctor looks at his hands. He says, well, look, champ, no more shots. I forbid you to take any shots. You're going to have paraffin baths. You're going to put your hands in hot paraffin for as long as you can stand it. And then it's going to cool, and you're going to peel it off. And you're going to do that as often as you can do it. And you're going to be okay. Not going to heal anything, but we're going to take away the pain. And I don't know what's happened, all right? Jerry Lisker, rest his soul, was the sports editor of the Post. We go up to Deer Lake. It's 4 days before Ali's leaving for Zaire. And we walk in, and I see him, bang, bang, on a heavy bag. Bang. He hasn't hit the heavy bag in almost 2 years. I look at Jerry, and Jerry looks at me, what's going on? Now, he knew we were there, so it's bang, 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 bang. He's got an audience what he loves. And now he's talking to us while he's banging the bag, not looking at us. I'm going to knock that sucker out. Boom, boom. I'm going to knock that sucker out. Boom, bang. And I said, Jerry, he's going to do it. And Jerry Lisker and I were the only 2 reporters in Kinshasa who picked Ali to win. by knockout. And knocking out George Foreman would be like chopping down a California redwood in those days. And somebody said to me afterwards, "Why did you pick him?" I said, "Let me tell you something about him. Long time ago, he said to me, if I tell you that Muhammad Ali can..." No, let me start that again. A long time ago, he said to me, if I tell you that a mosquito can pull a plow, don't argue with me, hitch him up. And I said, and I hitched him after I saw that performance in the gym.
I always felt like that was a perfect time for him to get out, Ali, after Foreman. That's the third time.
Three perfect times.
Yeah.
That was the first, by far. No problems. Now, I'm not a doctor and I can't talk about Parkinson's. And I'm going to say, I don't know. How much of it is boxing, how much of it is the disease, or all of it is one of the, I can't say. But at that time, there were no Parkinson symptoms. Mm-hmm. No slurring of words, no nothing. All right. Second time was after Frazier and Ali in Manila when he said I quit. That was the most brutal fight. And I say brutal, interesting. There wasn't a single low blow. There wasn't a single rabbit punch. It was the most brutal fight I ever saw, and it didn't go the full 15 rounds. It stopped after 14. That's what he should have killed. Because there, I don't think that had any impact on Parkinson's. It was kidneys. And he was urinating blood for a while after that. There was one other time. I went to the old Statler Hilton Hotel across from Madison Square Garden in New York to try to talk him into quitting. Because I really loved the guy. And I had heard, he had done the only commercial, he gave up all those commercials with his stand on Vietnam. He had one commercial, Raid, the bug killer. I listened to that commercial 10, 15 times. There's one word in it, F-O-G, fog. You shoot it and you get it. It took me about 10, 15 times to understand what the word was. And I really began to get concerned. So I went to see him. He was getting ready to fight Ernie Shavers. Ernie Shavers was the hardest one-punch heavyweight I ever saw in my life. And he never, to my knowledge, hit anybody below the neck. And I thought, this is not a good fight for him, for Ali to go in. Yeah. And we're talking there, and then I explained to him, he's got to go through with the fight. It's the fight. The fight was a theater fight. I think it was a theater fight, which would have put it on a Monday, and I think this is like a Friday. And we're talking, and I start to tell him, I play the bug commercial, and then I play a television, not the whole show. He wanted to hear the whole show, but I play a snippet of it called a show I did called The Last Fight, and it was Foreman and Ali. And you compare the two voices, and you got to know, if you hear it. And I said to him, now let me explain something to you. There was a doctor in Newark, New Jersey, named Martland, M-A-R-T-L-A-N-D. He autopsied 20 or so fighters' brains. Where the autopsy doesn't stand the total test of time is that he only took the bad fighters. So they're going to get hit and hit and hit and hit. He didn't take a guy who seldom got hit. I mean, was Gene Tunney's brain the same as Jack Dempsey when they died? I can't answer that question, but neither could Martland with that. But he did establish what on the street is called punch-drunk syndrome. In medical books, you'll find it as Martland syndrome. I said, Muhammad, let me tell you this about it. If you are beginning to develop it and you stop now, it's going to take 2 years for it to clear up. If after those 2 years or 3 years you go back and fight again, it starts all over again and exacerbates. So I'm saying to you, sooner or later you're going to have to quit. Everybody has to quit. I'm going to have to quit. You're going to have to quit. Why should it be after the Shavers fight? And he said, well, he said, You come to Deer Lake, we'll watch the tapes again, we'll talk. Whatever. I knew it went out the window, there was nothing there. Those are the 3 times I felt he really had to quit. Holmes, he should have even started. Berbick was a joke, but the sad part about Berbick wasn't that he kept fighting, because whatever was going to happen by then.
Yeah.
Sad part about it, he did it as a favor to somebody. He didn't even have a ring stool in the beginning. They knocked the backs off chairs and put them in the corner. They didn't have a bell when the fight program started. They were using a cowbell. That this guy should go out like that, and that nobody should, raise a hand about it or complain about it. Disgraceful. I have to admit he was unique. And my feelings, I've been public before, but I'll say them again. He is not the greatest heavyweight who ever lived. He's not the greatest heavyweight I ever saw. That goes to Joe Louis. But he is the fighter who made the most impact on the 20th century. That's why I laugh when Michael Jordan, great talent, gets to be the athlete of the 20th century. I think ESPN had him there. This is the guy because it's 20th century, and he shaped the latter part of the 20th century. A lot of people don't know because they're too young or they were too upset at the time. Ali didn't always have these people marching behind him and the war is wrong, the war is wrong, the war is wrong. He became the patron saint after they realized they were making progress, the war was going to end, and they sort of gravitated to him. And now he really is the unchallenged icon. Those who hated him the most have swung to his side as far as his abilities go. But I'll tell you one story about that. He's supposed to fight Ernie Terrell in Chicago, and they're going to take away his title. And I don't know whether this is before. I think this is before he didn't take the step forward, but he already expressed his opinions. And most people didn't. I wasn't quite sure whether I believed he'd go to jail. So the fight gets kicked out and winds up in Toronto, and it's not the same fight. He's going to fight George Chuvalo. I go up there, and I walk down Lansdowne Street in Toronto and make a turn off onto this side street to a place called Sully's AC Gym. If I ever do a movie, now that the Fifth Street Gym has been torn down, I got to do it in Sully's. You can't see out of the windows. It's the dirt, the filth caked on it. It's what a gym's supposed to look like. And when the floor creaks, it's supposed to what it sound like. I mean, a boxing gym.
Right.
So I go and I walk up and I walk in, and there's a 16-year-old kid, 15-year-old kid banging the hell out of a heavy bag. Nobody else is there. And then I hear voices in the back. So I go in the back. Muhammad is face down on a rubbing table, and Luis Soria, the Cuban refugee, who was his masseuse and who could have trained him, he was that good, he's giving him the massage. Ali looks up, he sees me, and he says, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, someone said there's a fight." He said, "You know this is no fight." I said, "Yeah, but I'm going to tell you what I'm doing here." A lot of young American boys had choices to make. Some of them chose to go to Canada where they could get political asylum. They didn't believe in Vietnam, or they didn't want to go to war, whatever it was. They were welcomed. I'm here. We happen to be in Canada, Muhammad. I want to see if you're going back. Only fight we ever had. Jumped off the rubbing table, got on my face. He said, "You should know better. How can you make it? That's my birth country. You think someone's going to," and I'm quoting your word for word, "you think someone's going to chase me out of my birth country? Are you crazy?" He said, "Look, if I have to go to jail, I don't make the laws. And if the laws say I have to go to jail after I go through the whole court system, I'll go. I'm not fighting those Viet Congs. And if I thought my going to Vietnam would make it better for all blacks in this country to move to this, remember this is the 60s, move toward equality, then I would go. You wouldn't have to send for me. But I'm not going to this war. I don't believe in it. My religion doesn't believe in the purpose of this war. And I'm going home. And you better get used to that idea." And he absolutely, in that moment, I knew he would do anything asked of him by the government, but he was not going to fight, and he would go to jail if he had to. It's my belief. People out there can say, oh, yeah, but you know, you've seen him on television, you know, but they don't know him. He would have gone to jail, no question in my mind. And he moved up, in my opinion. Today, demonstrators don't go to jail, or they do for a very brief time.
Yeah.
Martin Luther King went to jail because he believed in a cause. Went to jail a lot of times. I watched the students occupy Columbia on television, and they all jumped out with paper bags on their heads and towels over their faces. And that group in that period, the first demand was amnesty. I never heard Martin Luther King ask for amnesty.
Right.
And I don't think Ali would have either.
Well, that shows the scope of his influence. I mean,
That's the
not
point.
just-
Impact,
Yeah.
the greatest of the century.
I know I'm jumping at this, but I've always wondered. You might laugh at me and say you're crazy.
You
but
might be.
What about the Phantom Punch with the Sonny Liston? Do you know? I've watched that.
I saw it.
Yeah, I know you would.
I don't care who didn't see it. I saw it. First of all, most of the people in the arena didn't know what they were seeing anyway. Or in the theaters have camera angles. In those days, far fewer angles than you get now at a fight. I will tell you what happened. People write in, every time I say this on television or anywhere else, people write in to say, you're an imbecile, Sonny threw the fight, blah, 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 because they know, they know. They're 2,600 miles away or whatever, but they know. This is what happened. Sonny Liston trained as he had never trained in his life. I was almost convinced that I was going to pick him. Then Ali got a hernia. The fight was called off. 6 months later, Sonny never could get back in that condition. No, Sonny was an old man. I mean, he was a lot older than people think. So he did what I thought he would do. He decided, I have to knock this sucker out, and I have to do it right away because I'm going to win the fight otherwise. He went after him. Look at those films again if you want. He must have missed 15 jabs. Boom, boom. Ali's moving, and he's off. Every time you miss a punch, you're off balance. About the 12, 13, 14, 15, whatever it was that he misses, Ali knows what's coming. He's got his right hand, this is exactly where he has it. And when he sees him miss, he's off balance. All he did was bring the right hand down and chop it. It has to be a punch because there's contact and he goes down. Now the question is this. You could have even taken that hand down and pushed Sonny. He'd have gone down because if you went by me and I push you, you're going down.
Yeah.
Was it a hard enough in itself to put him down? No, lack of balance was. Was that punch in any way, shape, or form able to keep him down? Absolutely not. Sonny Liston decided, and I knew Sonny pretty well, he decided, first of all, Ali's not going to a neutral corner. He's standing over him, and I can hear him. He's yelling, get up, chump, no one's going to believe this. And finally, Walcott, who's the referee, pushes him toward the neutral corner. In so doing, he loses track of the count. Now, the count, by my estimation, is up to 725. I mean, that's how long it's going. But Walcott is running around the ring looking for the knockdown timekeeper. He has forgotten where, and you can happen he forgot where he is, because he's got the count. Sonny's on his back and his head is turned. He's saying, 8 comes after 7. This is me, and he never said it, but he's thinking, 8 comes after 7, 9 comes after, get this thing over with, because this guy's going to kill me. Did he take a dive? Absolutely not, but when he was down there, he found it convenient not to get up because he was paid, and he said, this guy will kill me. Mm-hmm. Now, Matt Fleischer, the editor, Ring Magazine and Ring Record Book guy, stands up with a little bow tie, and he's going like this. Walcott takes this to be the Supreme Court, so the fight must be over. What you don't see on the film, do you know that Sonny Liston got up? I mean, the count might have been 26 or something. He got up, he said, this guy's not going to say 10. I got to fight. He's up, he's fighting, Ali's fighting. When he turns back, Walcott's going like this, the fight's over. Now, I'm not saying he wanted to fight, but he couldn't stay there if the guy wasn't going to count him out. He wasn't knocked unconscious. He wasn't even, this force of that blow, chopping straight down, is not enough to raise what my kids used to call boo-boos on him. Mm-hmm. But it was a matter of balance, a matter of timing. And nobody was more surprised than Ali. That's when he invented that Jack Johnson's anchor punch and everything. And that's the one thing about him. You needed an explanation. Didn't matter what it was. He could make it up for you.
Well, I believe what you're saying, and it does shine a new light on it for me.
It's hard to see. Very hard to see.
I kept watching it, and I said, I don't know, because I love Muhammad Ali. You know, I said, my
Next
God.
time, don't look at, if you see it again, look at Liston.
Yeah.
And you'll see how off balance he is.
Okay.
And this was quick. And it wasn't, it was a chop, you know, that's what it was.
What's the name of the boxing book?
I thought you'd never ask. The name of the boxing book is Once There Were Giants. It is the story of an era that I lived through, which is, no matter, forget Jack Johnson, forget Joe Louis, so you can't forget either one of them, forget Rocky Marciano, because they didn't have the volume of guys to fight who could fight. This is an era, the first chapter is the mob. And when the mob loses its stranglehold, now the mob guys have fighters, I know that, I'm not naive, but they don't have control. They can't say, you will fight this guy, you won't fight that guy. You know, when that happened, first thing that happened was, tell you real quickly, Floyd Patterson is fighting Sonny Liston. Sonny knocks him out. Everybody, oh, the mob's got control. Well, there were two groups of mob guys in boxing. People don't seem to know. Cuss was fighting the mob, waving the bat. He was fighting a different mob. Cuss had a cousin, Charles Black. Every time a foreign fighter came to fight Floyd, Charles Black became the American representative. Charles Black's real name was Charles Antonucci. His cousin was Tony Fat Salerno. Cuss didn't have dealings with the mob. And then when Ingemar fought Floyd for the first time, Tony Fat Salerno was the guy who put up the money. And it rained, and it was postponed. And the promoter, who let's let him remain nameless, he didn't really commit any crimes. He gets a call from Tony Fat Salerno. They're fighting tonight, ain't they? He said, well, I don't know what the weather report is. They're fighting tonight. I'm losing too much money. Put them in rowboats. They're fighting tonight. So that was, it goes from that mob, which is now out of it, once Sonny wins. Ali takes Sonny's mob out of it, Blinky and Carbo and those guys. And then it goes into starting with Ali, Sonny, and it goes all the way up and it ends with Tyson biting Holyfield's ear. And that was the greatest procession. You think of those guys. Ernie Shavers would be champion today. Jerry Quarry would be champion today. Cooney might have been champion today. And I say that not to denigrate his skill. He was a one-handed fighter because the two guys who owned him were more interested in having him fight guys with big records who couldn't fight anymore than having him fight guys where he could learn to fight. Cooney would have been a hell of a fighter, but he never had the chance. But his left hook was world championship caliber. Those guys would have been champions.
Ron Lyle could have been a champion.
Absolutely. Ron Lyle, Oscar Bonavena hit Joe Frazier so hard. Had it not been for the ring post, he'd have been out of the ring. Those guys, I mean, and Ali, all these guys, Ali, Frazier, Foreman, go down to Holmes, they all fought these guys.
True. Yeah.
Holmes got hit so hard by Shavers, he fell face forward. I'll give you $1,000 right now if you could stand up and fall on your face. You can't do it. And I thought, my God, he's dead. He didn't move, and then all of a sudden he's up at 8 or 9, and he wins a decision. Yeah. Because Larry never got the credit either, you know. Look, for all that Muhammad Ali did for boxing, he did more for newspapermen. But beyond that, he did less for the guys who followed him because Joe Frazier and Larry Holmes never got what they deserved. They were stuck in Muhammad Ali's shadow.